Talk with Tyson Bryden. Come on for the ride. We'll take you inside. Non-stop rock talk. It's non-stop rock talk with Tyson Bryden. Come on for the ride. We'll take you inside.
Welcome to Nonstop Rock Talk. I am your host, Tyson Bryden. It gives me great pleasure to welcome singer-songwriter John Corabi. Welcome, John. How's it going?
I'm good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. John, you're about to release a brand new studio album entitled New Day on April 24th via Frontier Records. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Tell me about the process of how this all came about, because it kind of caught me by surprise that you were releasing a solo album.
Well, I wanted to before, and there's a couple songs on the record that I like this. I was initially planning on doing this, and I kind of put it on hold for a minute because obviously it's a new way of doing stuff. You know, before it was like, you know, you did a record and it went out to radio stations, and you know, now it's like streaming services, algorithms, hashtags. I'm like, I don't have a clue. So I kind of put the brakes on it, and then, you know, obviously I took a little hiatus from the Daisies. I went back. So I kind of put the brakes on everything, and then, you know, but the whole thing kind of just came together naturally. Frontiers contacted me last year and said, "Hey, would you be into doing a solo record?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, I got some songs written, so yeah." And then shortly after the Dead Daisies, you know, we were on tour, and they said, "Hey, we're going to take a year off. We've been hitting it pretty hard. So we're going to take a year off and, you know, see you guys in 27. So I was like, all right. I called Marti. I said, "Hey, I got a year off. Let's get in and knock this record out if you're up for it." And he was like, all about it. So we just locked ourselves away in the studio for a little bit, laid these tracks down, and the labels had the record for about 4 months. And now it's just songs are starting to come out. The record comes in April, and I'm already starting to book, you know, a bunch of shows in Europe and America and, you know, hopefully in Canada at some point. So we'll see. It's been really cool.
That's awesome. I mean, you mentioned Marti, which is Marti Fredrickson, who has worked with Aerosmith, Ozzy, Buckcherry, to name a few. But for me, when I saw his name associated with this album, I thought about Brother Kane, which was, you know, way back in the 90s. And he wrote songs with Damon Johnson on that Brother Kane album. And that was one of my favorite bluesy rock albums, you know. Yes. So I was excited that you were going to be working with him, because I was kind of like, you know what, this is going to be amazing. And it's probably going to have that, you know, that more of that 70s, 60s, 70s sound. And I was like excited about that.
So have you heard the record? Or?
Yes, I just heard it today.
Okay. Yeah. You know, honestly, that was my only thing, because Marti was like, "Well, what do you want to do, dude?" And I go, "I just want to go old school, 60s, 70s sounding, organic." Yeah. But I don't like being pigeonholed or put into any boxes.
Yeah.
So I said, I just want a record that the suits aren't going to figure out. They're not going to be able to figure out what box to put it in.
Yeah.
And, you know, at this point, Frontiers loves the record. So they're like, "Dude, you wanted to go, you know, no boxes, old school 60s, 70s. You nailed it." So.
And it's totally
I'm just happy. I love the record. I think it's awesome.
I mean, I've listened. I just got it, the advance today, so I put it on, and it blew me away, to be honest with you. I was like, this is a fantastic record. It's a great rock record, you know, with that 60, 70 vibe, as you said. And it right down to the point of, you know, listening to the drums, for instance, they have that old feel to them. You know, you can hear each tom, and it's got that feel to it. I mean, in terms of recording the drums, was that kind of what you guys were going for with trying to keep that vibe, the way those drums used to sound back in the day?
Yeah, it was just about, like, you know, I mean, I think we've gotten to a point right now, just musically. I know I've done it in the past. I mean, God, the Motley record that I did was so bombastic on every front.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think everybody's always looking for bigger and fatter, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think some of the beauty in some of the older records was just finding a drum sound or a guitar sound that fit the song. So honestly, there wasn't, as far as the tracks that I did, there was very minimal gain on the guitars. Everything was just, we just tried to put everything where it fit, and it worked. You know what I mean? Not too aggressive, over the top, but not too light either. You know what I mean? It still had to have some, pardon my French, balls. But just like you said, clarity. You could hear all the instruments. You know what I mean? And that was like all those old, I mean, if you even listen to like bands that could be bombastic, like, you know, Led Zeppelin, for example, you know, you'd have one track where they were doing, you know, When the Levee Breaks, just this massive drum sound. And then you hear something like Ramble On, where it's almost like they've got, you know, sheets or blankets over all the toms, and they're just, you know, it was like whatever fit the song.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I attribute that to when you listen to old Beatles records and hearing like how it was like this eclectic sound. When you listen to Rubber Soul, for instance, and how certain things are on the right side and things are on the left side, and just, you know, that it was very simplistic, but it just sounded really cool.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of all that old stuff. I mean, I grew up listening to, you know, obviously the Beatles and Zeppelin, Stones, you know, but Three Dog Night, the Guess Who, Creedence, you know what I mean? And they, I don't know, man, it was just a different time. And I can't say I tried to mimic any one thing, but I just, you know, we really sat down and wrote, I think, a bunch of really cool classic sounding songs. And then we said, okay, now let's give them, you know, a classic delivery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, in terms of like to getting that semi-vintage sound, did you use any different types of mics, like maybe old mics, vintage amps, stuff like that? Yeah, we did. We used like some little combo amps. There wasn't many big, you know, big amps or whatever. But what we would do is a lot of times Marty's got a bunch of plugins for, you know, his Pro Tools, or he's got piano sounds and guitar and just all this weird stuff. But what we would do is do a plug-in and find an old cool vintage sound, and then he would re-mic it through a little combo amp or something. You know what I mean? That's cool.
So we were really just going for that old school 60s, 70s vibe, sound, whatever.
Yeah, no, and that's cool. I mean, when you listen to When I Was Young, for instance, that that 12 string, I assume, is in the intro, and immediately I thought of Hard Luck Woman, but then it doesn't sound like Hard Luck Woman, but it's got that type of acoustic sound, which really set the song off.
Yeah, and it was funny when we wrote it. It was initially more of a ballad, and then we kind of went away. Marty and I sat and wrote it at his house, and then it came, and I started working on lyrics. And then when we got back together again to lay it down, Marty goes, "Hey, man, the more I'm listening to this tune, I think we need to do it a little more up-tempo." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "You know what, dude? Think Maggie May."
I thought that too. I actually had that in my notes as it went on.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. So we started playing it a little faster, and I was singing it, and I go, I totally hear what you're hearing.
Yeah.
So that's how we laid it down. And then it was like, well, you know what? Rod Stewart was notorious for using keys and banjos and violins and mandolin. So we put mandolin on it as well. And it just worked. So there's a 12 string that I think either Marty or his son Evan played. And then I did the rhythm, another 6 string acoustic track. Then I did the electric rhythm tracks, and then I did the solo. And even with the solo, I tried to put my Ronnie Wood hat on. Like, how would he do this solo? You know what I mean?
That's cool. That's amazing.
Yeah. So
it is a great song. And then New Day is the other song that has been released so far, which is awesome too. That's really got that eclectic type of vibe going. What can you say about that one?
Well, obviously it's a very positive message, but musically I just love that riff, and it's very Beatlesque. But like you were saying, being eclectic, it's funny to me, after we sat down and listened to it, like I was laughing with Marty. I said, dude, there's like 3 bands that I'm hearing here. And he's like, what? And I go, well, the Beatles on the main riff. And then I said, the guitar solo does this weird thing. It's like this, almost like a march, but it's very Thin Lizzy-ish with the harmony guitars. And then once the regular single guitar solo starts, it almost sounds like Aerosmith, like from Get Your Wings or Toys in the Attic era Aerosmith.
Yeah. And
I was like, I love it. It's awesome. It's all old 70s vibe that I was going for.
That's amazing. You know? And as I listened to the whole album today, I was excited because, I mean, I love the Dead Daisies, and I love most of the work that you've done over the years, the Motley stuff, the Scream, everything that goes back. But to me, this album kind of, I smiled because I was like, you know what, this really defines, having talked to you before and in person and whatnot, because you had told me, you had always said how much you loved Aerosmith. So
yeah.
To me, I was like, you know what, this really defines John Corabi as who he is. This music is what I'm hearing, and it made me, I kind of smiled, and I was happy about it just listening to the album.
You know, it's funny. My wife said to me, because I had like a moment. I love the record, but that's me. And then, but there was, you know, for a minute, just like literally for a minute, I was like, ooh, man, this isn't as heavy as anything I've done in the past. You know, I hope I don't scare people away with this. And my wife said something to me. She goes, you know what? She goes, I'm just going to say this. If you listen to your songwriting, you've always kind of been this guy.
Yeah.
But she goes, I think for each person that might say, well, it's not heavy or it's not, you know, I don't, whatever. She goes, I think you're going to pick up like 100 other people that are going to be able to relate to it. So I was like, okay. But she said, you know what I love about this record? She goes, to me, I've listened to every record you've ever done, and you were always in a band situation. So there was compromising.
Yep.
She goes, this to me is like, this record is John Corabi.
I agree.
And I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I like the way you think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
And that's what I got out of it.
said that, but what she said actually made sense. This is an honest, straight from the heart John Corabi record because there was no compromising on it. It was ultimately at the end of the day, even with Marty, he would go, "Hey, dude, it's your record. What do you want to do?
Wow.
It's your name on it. So what do you want?" And we would discuss things and figure it out. But I'm stoked about this record.
Yeah, well, the song that I've listened to a few times already is "Faith, Hope, and Love," and
Yeah,
man, that's a good song. And I can't wait to play it for my wife. I haven't played it for her yet, but I'm like, she's gonna love it too. And I know just by listening to it because that is a killer song.
and I have to say, I have to give out a huge thank you because that's Charlie Starr from Blackberry Smoke is doing all the.
He's so good.
Intro, and he did the main solos and stuff at the end, and did a rhythm track on it, and he just put the icing on the cake for that one for me. So
that's cool. And she'll be when she knows that too, because we love Blackberry Smoke. So that's cool.
They're great dudes.
They're a great band too. I mean, listening to, there's a bunch of songs that stood out to me, but like 1969, that's a really cool song as well. And
that one was, I have to thank Stevie D from Buck Cherry. He had been working with Marty prior to Marty working with me, and knew that I was getting ready to do a solo record. So he put some idea down on tape, and Marty and I listened to it, and Marty's like, "Man, I really dig the riff." There was like this little riff that Stevie did in the beginning of the song. Yeah. So we took it, kind of bastardized it a little bit, and I don't know how, but like we kind of mapped the song out, and as soon as we mapped it out, I had it on my phone. Marty and I were just playing acoustics. And I came home, and it was weird. Like, I got to the chorus, and I just kept saying at the end of the chorus, ran through it all back in 1969. So I just sat down, and as a kid, because I lived a lot of that stuff. You know what I mean? I'm 66 years old, so I was 10 or 11 years old in 69.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I just started thinking about things that happened that year.
That's cool.
And I just started writing lyrics down. And it's funny, my wife, she's a bit younger than me, but she was like, what do these lyrics mean? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And I go, okay, well, 5 for a nickel, 10 for a dime. That's what we would pay for weed back in the day. And she goes, well, who's Judy and Brian? Judy Garland, who played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Brian Jones from the Rolling Stones. They both died in 1969. And then it was like the hippies sing, the children dance. Well, I was talking about Woodstock.
Yeah.
Lennon said, give peace a chance. That's when that song came out, was 69. And then, I'm talking about Vietnam was in full bloom, and then the peace rally in Washington, which my entire school went to. We were all on school buses and went to the peace rally in Washington, D.C. when I was like 10 years old. So I just wrote it all down. And then, the last line of the second verse, it says, the children sang and the hippies danced while the Star-Spangled Banners screamed from Jimmy's hands. And that was, Jimi Hendrix opened his set at Woodstock. Yeah. So it was just all stuff that happened in 69. Even in the chorus, it says, Play us a song. So there's Change in the Air, A Trip to the Moon, which was also the moon landing.
Yep.
Trip to the Moon, Who's Paying the Fare, Summer of Love, A Moment in Time. We ran through it all back in 1969. So it's just all shit that happened in 1969.
Man, that's brilliant. I love that. I mean, I haven't listened to it enough to focus on all those lyrics, so
Yeah,
now I know.
Yeah, it's just, and it was funny. Even I got a friend of mine that's helping me with the videos and the label. They were like, "What?" I go, "Just," and I go through it with them line by line. They're like, "Jesus, dude, this is like a history lesson." I'm like, "Yeah, but I was there. I remember it all."
That's cool. I mean, I finished your book a couple of months ago, and by the way, I really enjoyed it. It was a really good read, and it was funny. I was in Nashville a few years back, and I was reading the book, and there was a story about the El Camino, about your dad's El Camino. In the book.
Yeah.
Well, when I was in Nashville, there was an Uber driver who I ended up calling her all the time to pick us up. And she says to me, she said, "Have you ever heard of, do you know this guy, John Corabi?" I was like, yeah. He's, sang in Motley Crue and yada, yada, all that stuff. She said, "Well, I actually picked him up once, and he was going to the garage to pick up his El Camino." So when I read in the book about the El Camino, and then hearing that what had happened to it, which was, that was kind of the end of that story. And I'm very sorry to hear that, because that belonged to your dad. And that was,
yeah, it was a weird, the whole week was weird, because we had just had a tornado like 2 days before
right.
go through, and then the El Camino. And I'm like, oh God, like what, what it was like, what else could happen?
Yeah.
But you know what? It's like I really was upset about it, but it's like there was some reason, and for all I know, it could have been my father. He passed away. He was probably pissed that I was driving his car. So
yeah,
you know what I mean? He's like, we're done. But so I shit happens, dude. There's like, this, even the lyrics of New Day, that's what it's about, man. Life throws you fucking lemons. Just cut them, squeeze them, and put some vodka in it and call it a day.
Yeah.
Like, move on. You know what I mean? What are you going to do?
Yeah, no, it was, the thing with the book was that, I loved the music stories and hearing but the more personal stuff in the book I thought was really cool, because you went into some pretty personal stuff in the book, and I thought it was amazing. It was one of those books that you can't put down.
Well, I appreciate that. It was, I did say, like, I had to tone some things down or pull some shit out, because my goal wasn't to throw anybody under a bus, whatever. I was trying to be as brutally honest as I could without hurting anybody's feelings. There was obviously a few girls that I was either married to or dated. They're married now. So it's like, I don't want their husbands going, "Wait, you did what?" With the hold, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
So it's like, how can I tell this story without turning somebody's life upside down? But
which is a classy move.
Everybody's that's read it has been super positive. So that's all you can ask for.
Yeah. And I mean, it was funny reading when you're in Motley, when you first joined the band, and Tommy calls the helicopter to go to this wedding, and I'm like, and I loved how you describe it, because you're like, this isn't me, like, this isn't, like, just seemed like
this isn't normal.
Right.
Have a fucking helicopter land in somebody's backyard to take you to a wedding.
Exactly.
Who does that? You know what I mean?
And that's what I got out of it, because the way you describe it, you were kind of like, it was a very humble way to describe it, because you're like, but I mean, I get it too, because like, think of how Motley Crue had been popular for what, over 10 years by that point, and that's just the way life was, I guess.
Yeah, and that was kind of the disconnect. Like, they were used to it. It's like, I'd go over to Nicky's house and he's got a 12,500 square foot home. And I'm looking around and I'm going, okay, so, but I had been there enough to know that Nicky spent most of his time in his office, his bedroom, his living room, and the kitchen. And it was like, I would go into rooms and I'm like, dude, have you ever been in that room back there? Man, God, it's so comfortable. He goes, what room? He didn't even know, like, because he was like, his life rotated around 3 or 4 rooms.
Yeah.
And he had bedrooms that he had never been into before. And I'm like, then why do you have all this room? Like, why do you need it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just didn't get it. You know what I mean?
I would be the same. I would totally be the same.
Well, it's like, okay, you know what I'd rather do? I would rather have 500 acres of land with a 2,500 or 3,000 square foot home on it. And it's like, I got the land. That's all I want. Privacy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I'm with you.
So
I'm with you, man. Well, John, I want to thank you for joining me today, and I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully we'll see you in the summertime up here in Canada or Toronto.
Yep, I would love that, buddy. That would be awesome.
Okay, man. Well, you have a great night, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, brother. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.